There's a lot of chatter on the internet about food stamps and welfare, reduction of food stamp benefits, and people are freaking out about that. I just watched another video about some TikTok chick that literally gave a $27 class on how to rip off the system, and now she's going to be in trouble. If you hear something breathing really heavy, that's Mason. He just got done playing frisbee, and it's hot as hell outside. I'm soaking wet in sweat. But I just wanted to throw this out there. You know, I'm 63 years old, and I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I was raised in Inglewood, actually, which is a suburb of Los Angeles on the south side. So I grew up in Inglewood and Hawthorne. But the thing is we were like super, super impoverished. It was just my mom and my three older sisters and I. And that, that story is, worthy of a 5-hour video if I was to really break it down. But it was hell in every way imaginable. I mean, there were a lot of drugs, a lot of abuse, a lot of alcohol. My sister ended up in a foster home. One of them ended up committing suicide. Everybody in the entire house, except for me, became an alcoholic. I mean, it's just, and had terrible endings. So it's just, that's kind of goes part and parcel with fatherless homes and growing up in a legitimate hood. But that being said, we were raised on food stamps, and I was in the free lunch program. I lived in a motel for over a year, and a motel, when you're living in a motel, that's your last step before living on the streets. So we would rent places, get booted out. My mom did some, think of the worst thing your mother could do to pay the bills, and that's what she did. But she was high as fuck all the time. Another story. But so there we were, and I had the free lunch program at school. Super embarrassing. Wore shoes, for 2 years until they fell apart. All of the shit that goes along with being poor. And my mom used to send us to the store. You send me to the store all the time, and you'd have to walk literally miles to the store, to the grocery store. And, I'd just be so ashamed. Back then, you had a booklet of food stamps, and they looked like Monopoly money. They were just purple and green and orange and, based on the denominations. And, I'd pull these things out, and I'd be so embarrassed. And, sometimes I'd see somebody I know in the store, and I'd have to, hide out in the back till they left because I didn't want them to see me paying. Fast forward. Okay, so I jumped out of that family, dropped out of school to get out of that, joined the Army, dropped out in the 11th grade, joined the Army, became a paratrooper, got out of that, joined the Los Angeles Police Department, and, you're not going to get rich being a cop, but I did pretty good, raised a family. I've now raised 7 kids. I've owned 2 businesses, retired from LAPD, did 12 years as a federal agent in Washington, D.C. With an OIG. And now I'm retired. My point is, food stamps welfare was never meant to be a generational thing. It wasn't meant to be a way. It was meant to be a bridge between a low point in your life and recovering. And what's happened, and I saw this a lot when I was a cop, I used to work in Watts, and you would literally see 3 and 4 generations of people that's all they did. They just lived off of welfare and food stamps. There was never any talk to the children or expectation that they were going to ever get a job. You were going to have kids and get your government check. And it's that mentality that has led to this bewilderment and surprise and anger that the benefits are being cut. I feel terrible for people whose benefits are being cut like that. But I also feel terrible for the taxpayers, me being one of them, that have to sustain never-ending free shit. It's not what it was designed for. So I think, America needs to get its educational system back from the grasp of these leftists who depend on impoverished people for their votes so they can promise them a bunch of shit, give them free shit, and get their votes. We need to take back the educational system and start teaching things like responsibility and teaching things like economics and how and, the actual steps to keep yourself from poverty or get out of poverty if you're in poverty. Give people hope. Give them a future. Nobody likes being poor. I'm pretty sure about that. But that's my 2 cents. What do you think?